Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos. I'm Vanessa Hauc, the co-founder of Sasha Mama and the director of Planeta Tierra at Telemundo Network. And I'm so excited to welcome you to this conversation. I want to share with you this wonderful journey that I embarked in the past couple of months, looking for those stories where the ocean is the great provider. And I was so amazed to discover how the ocean is not only essential to secure a stable climate and planet, but also in supporting the lives of millions of people, providing food, jobs, the air we breathe, and improving our well-being, among many other things. Today, we will explore how the oceans provides for families and business that depend on tourism in the Sunshine State, especially the diving industry. Now, I would like to bring to the conversation our two guests. Luis Román, he's the owner of Calypso Dive Chapters, a company that specializes in all levels of scuba divers, including shark encounters. And also, I would like to welcome Jeremy Kiszka. He's an FIU professor. Dr. Kiszka studies the ecological role and importance of marine megafauna in the marine ecosystem. Thank you for being with us. Well, it's great to have you here because you are both experts in the subject that we're going to. First of all, I would like to invite you to see our story.
Nuestro planeta es un planeta azul. Los océanos cubren casi el 75% de la superficie de la Tierra. Son vitales para nuestra supervivencia. Nos ofrecen alimento, experiencias, alegrías, y son la fuente de ingresos de millones de personas en el mundo. Todos dependemos del océano. Él nos proporciona la mitad del oxígeno que respiramos, absorbe 50 veces más dióxido de carbono que nuestra atmósfera y da vida al 80% de los seres vivos del planeta.
Mi nombre es Vanessa Hauc y ando en busca de aquellos héroes cuya misión es proteger el océano, el gran proveedor.
Te pones las aletas, los guantes y luego la máscara. Ajustas tu visión. Te acercas a la plataforma de buceo. Respiras profundamente y das un paso al frente para sumergirte dentro del océano. ¿Ves lo que yo veo? Esto es lo que la especie humana no puede seguir destruyendo. Hoy estoy en el condado de Palm Beach, en la Florida. He venido a conocer a Luis, fundador de Calypso Divers, una escuela donde no solo le enseña a las personas a bucear, también los lleva a una de las experiencias más extremas, nadar con tiburones.
Hola Luis.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Bien, muchas gracias por recibirnos.
No es problema. Tremendo día para ver tiburones hoy.
Perfecto, vamos.
Bueno, en el momento estamos en la salida del Palm Beach Inlet, aproximadamente 3 millas mar afuera para estar en el área de los tiburones.
¿Cómo comenzó tu pasión por el océano y por los tiburones?
Hace muchos años, cuando yo era chico, yo vine con mi papá y en un aeropuerto compramos un libro de tiburones y la pasión creció desde ese momento. Luego, más tarde, cuando tuve edad suficiente para aprender scuba diving, aprendí a hacer scuba diving y me hice instructor en 1990 para enseñar a otras personas cómo ver el mundo marino.
Un mundo fascinante donde habita el mayor depredador del océano, el tiburón. Con 5 filas de dientes y hasta 3.000 colmillos, es esencial en el balance del ecosistema marino, pero también es el animal menos entendido del planeta.
Me gusta enseñar de que los tiburones no son estos animales que quieren comerse a la gente.
Pero es mala fama simplemente.
Mala fama.
De hecho, los seres humanos no estamos en su menú. Ellos se alimentan de peces y focas y especialmente limpian el océano de los animales enfermos o débiles. Un océano sin tiburones no es saludable.
Bueno, tú haces algo que no muchas personas hacen, que es nadar con tiburones y grabarlos. ¿Cómo es esa experiencia para ti?
Creo que hasta ahora nadie ha mostrado la realidad al 100% de que los tiburones no son lo que nosotros creemos, que nos han hecho creer básicamente.
¿Qué son los tiburones?
Yo creo que es lo más parecido a poder llevar tu experiencia a la prehistoria y encontrarte con animales que hace 400 millones de años que controlan el ecosistema marino en su totalidad.
Son criaturas impresionantes.
Acuérdate lo que te digo, que después de esta experiencia vas a quedar como con la curiosidad de volver todo el tiempo.
Hoy, después de vivir en el mar desde hace más de 400 millones de años, los tiburones, por primera vez, están en peligro de extinción. En los últimos 30 años, el ser humano ha cazado el 70% de las poblaciones de tiburones en el mundo. Cada año mueren más de 100 millones de ejemplares.
¿Cuál es la situación actual de los tiburones aquí en la Florida?
Muchas veces el tiburón lo que hacen es que le cortan las aletas, el tiburón se ahoga, pues no tiene manera de cómo nadar.
Son víctimas de la pesca ilegal. Los capturan por sus aletas. Una sopa de aleta de tiburón se vende en Asia por casi $200. Se piensa equivocadamente que es beneficiosa para la salud. También son pescados por su carne, hígado y su piel.
El tiburón necesita agua que pase por la boca y pase por las agallas para oxigenarse. Si el tiburón está estático o no se mueve, por eso es que siempre ven un tiburón moviéndose constantemente. ¿Qué sucede? Que entonces no adquieren el oxígeno en las agallas y entonces se mueren por eso mismo.
Un tiburón vivo vale mucho más que un tiburón muerto. Los escualos son imanes para la economía de las ciudades costeras.
Tenemos el ecoturismo y esa persona que viene aquí a Palm Beach come en restaurantes, se queda en hoteles, agarra un vuelo de aéreo y etcétera, etcétera, produce mucho más dinero para la economía local y la economía del país.
Hoy los estudios revelan que los tiburones simplemente están desapareciendo completamente de algunos océanos de la Tierra y es vital que comencemos a verlos como lo que son, criaturas grandiosas indispensables para la salud de nuestro mundo marino y no una amenaza para la especie humana.
Yo pienso que racionalmente, con todo lo que me has dicho, ya sé que los tiburones pues no son peligrosos, que no te quieren atacar, que no te quieren comer, ya lo sabemos. Pero cuando ves estos tiburones tan grandes alrededor, pues de todas maneras le da miedo a uno.
Sí, es normal que tengas esa aprensión un poco, pero una vez entiendes, o sea, te metas al agua y entiendes que los tiburones verdaderamente están ahí para nadar, se te va a ir ese miedo y vas a entrar como en un pensamiento de tranquilidad. El tiburón nada y es como un glider, está perfectamente diseñado para pasar sobre el agua y cuando lo ves nadando te inspira paz. Cada uno tiene su comportamiento como personas, tienen personalidad.
Tú vas a estar por aquí cerquita, ¿no?
Sí, no, vamos a estar al lado tuyo, sí.
Ok.
Con esto en mente y mucho valor, me preparo para saltar. Abajo del agua es otro mundo. Su mundo. Decenas de tiburones llegan a verme. Algunos se acercan como si tuvieran curiosidad por saber quién soy. A otros, poco les interesa mi presencia. Poco a poco pierdo los nervios y entiendo que la percepción que tenemos de ellos está nublada por el miedo. No podemos proteger a quien vemos como una amenaza. Mientras nado a su lado, comienzo a admirar la majestuosidad de esta especie. Seres milenarios que llegaron aquí mucho antes que nosotros y que en nuestro lapso de vida están desapareciendo. Los tiburones son esenciales, son una fuente de sustento para millones de familias en comunidades costeras y cumplen una función vital en el balance del océano, el gran proveedor.
That was amazing. I get nervous just to see it. I want to thank you, Luis, for being with me. You and your team were by my side step by step during this amazing experience. And I truly want to thank you for that. And I'd actually like to start with you. So, what do you think is the greatest misconception when people go with you diving?
The number one misconception is, how am I going to survive this? Most people will go in the water, or even the phone calls that I get, it's basically, am I going to get bit? Are they going to eat me? And I tell them that we don't use a cage, that it's all free diving and all that. And then they very, very nervously still sign up to go because they want to see them. And once they get in the water, their life changes.
Well, definitely. It's a life-changing experience without a doubt. Professor Kiszka, what do you think that sharks have such a bad reputation?
Well, I think it goes back to, decades and decades, but I think, the moment when, people started being really afraid of sharks is, as soon as I think Jaws came out in the mid 70s. And, it was a really popular movie, and it got into, people's mind, including me when I was a kid. And the first time that I saw Jaws, I got really scared of sharks for many years. Although I wanted to be a biologist when I was probably 12 or 13. But, until I haven't seen my first shark, I was extremely scared of them. Although I was swimming sometimes in places where there were no sharks, I was always looking back, just to make sure that they were not there. So it's difficult to know why people are so scared. But the media, we need monsters. People, the media, they need monsters. And sharks were one of those, unfortunately.
Yes, I definitely can feel what you're saying. Even though Luis was telling me that they were not going to do anything to me, I still, when I jump into water and I saw myself surrounded by these huge creatures, I was very, very nervous about it. So how do we start changing the perception that people have, Professor?
By educating people, by doing, by showing these animals. And I think, Luis is part of that process where, he takes people out to see the reality and to discover what sharks are in their natural environments. I think, Aquarius and, can help, but I think until you see them with your own eyes underwater, it's difficult to picture what they are and how they can interact with people and then whenever you get in the water, you realize that these animals are just trying to survive in a very challenging environment. Educating people, that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do with the youngest people. Everyone, but we need to insist, I think, on young generations to try to change perceptions and use also these charismatic animals, sharks, but also many other species as ambassadors of the oceans, because they're charismatic and they create an emotion to people. It can be fear, but it could be admiration. It can be many things.
Definitely. It's just such an amazing feeling to see them so close. And in the video, there was a moment where one of the sharks came to one of the instructors, Luis, I don't know if you remember, but the shark came to his lap like he was a dog, and then he was patting him, and it was just so amazing to see that creature doing that. So yeah, definitely it's a change of perception. Luis, what do the people that you take swimming and diving, what do they say when they come out of this experience?
Majority of them will express the greatest admiration. They will show definitely, a change in character, if you will, a change in the understanding of the sharks itself. They lose that fear, a lot of them. Don't get me wrong, a good percentage will still say, I will never go back in. But at the same time, there is a big percentage that actually want more. And I get a lot of repeat customers. They fly from all over the world before the pandemic. I've had people come from all over the world. I'm talking about from Japan, Russia, everywhere. And they come see the sharks. And the greatest thing about our area is that you see multiple species. So in the summer, you'll see one type of species, sometimes 4 or 5 species. In the winter, you see different species. And they come back to see them and how their behaviors are a little bit different from one or the other. Last weekend, we had a tiger shark, and the behavior was like any other shark almost. Stayed about 10 minutes or so, and then he went away.
Wow, that's amazing. Professor, could you explain to us why are sharks so important for the marine ecosystem?
Well, sharks are, at the top of the food web. So, although we still really don't fully understand how they affect communities and other species, to be honest, we think that they're very important. In some ecosystems, they can change the dynamics of entire communities of fish and other animals that they feed upon. But I'd like to say that actually it's one of the research questions I'm really interested in. How these animals affect other species behavior, other species populations, and honestly, we don't know much about it. That's the reality. We think that they're important everywhere. There's some places in some ecosystems where they might be more important than others. It's extremely complex because you need to look at the sharks and you need to look at other species below. But yeah, they in some ecosystems they're actually critical, and they can promote the growth of seagrass ecosystem. This has been shown in Shark Bay, Western Australia, where the presence of tiger sharks really is critical for seagrass ecosystems and communities.
Yes, and everything is connected in the environment, also in the marine ecosystem. If something is affected, other populations are going to be affected as well. So, Luis, we know that incomes from dive tourism is one of the fastest growing sectors in the tourism industry. And divers especially love to see sharks, those shark encounters. What do you think it will happen if we don't have sharks?
Number one, it will be very devastating to the ocean. The ocean needs all the levels, if you will, from the sharks all the way to the small fish that is on the reef. And that provides life throughout the entire ecosystem and entire ocean. So number one, without sharks, there will be no healthy fish. Fish that we eat, the ones that are sick, will actually be eaten by the weakest link fish. It will be eaten by the sharks, and then you create a strong population. On the ecosystem and the ecotourism side, then it will be pretty devastating, not just to the local areas and hotels, like I mentioned, and all that, but I believe that it will be very catastrophic.
Yes, definitely. We hope we don't get to that point. Professor, what is the state of the biodiversity? Are species declining in Florida and globally? And what are the main challenges we face protecting them and their ecosystems?
I think so. Since I'm working in many different places around the globe, I can tell you when I moved to South Florida from my natal Europe and France, I was baffled by the diversity and the marine biodiversity that I found here. Shark populations, to be honest, are pretty healthy along the coast of Florida. It doesn't mean that they're not threatened. I've been, and I do work in many places where you do not see any shark. They've been completely extirpated by fisheries, and they do not exist anymore. If you see one, you're extremely lucky. And we've been surveying many reefs around the globe, and there are places where sharks are absent. So let's remember that in Florida, we're really lucky. We're really lucky. And, the thing is, in the US and in Florida, there's been tremendous effort to protect these, and to keep sharks in these waters. And in other places, you know, it didn't really happen. So in Florida, I think there are lots of pressures. There's lots of issues. Climate change is definitely affecting ecosystems, nutrient inputs. The destruction of marine habitats is a real problem. You see Biscayne Bay, you know, and what's happening in Biscayne Bay, the disappearance of seagrass bed is disastrous for aquatic communities. And, you know, at every level, manatees, dolphins, sharks, fish, everything. So we need to restore these systems. We need to reduce our impacts. But, you know, in Florida, there's various problems, but at the same time, you still see like a lot of different species. So we're lucky. In other places, it's, you know, the situation can be worse. It can be better as well. And there are many ways to improve the health of our oceans. There are many solutions. So we need to focus on these solutions, try to apply them.
Absolutely. When we think about the ocean, very few times we stop to think that the ocean is truly a great provider. Fishing, tourism, and ocean recreation in Florida supports more than 6,000 jobs, and it contributes $34 billion to the GDP. Diving and snorkeling brings $11 billion to the GDP in the country. And this is truly amazing. And we are not counting all tourism, hotels, restaurants, and many more businesses that basically depend on a beautiful ocean in order to survive. Do you see this, Luis? And do you think that other people understand how important are the oceans?
Not really. I mean, Jeremy mentioned, you know, how lucky we are. There's still a lot of pressure from the fisherman industry, meaning commercial fishermen, and even recreational fishermen that wants to really get rid of the sharks because it takes their cash, if you will. So there is a very lack of understanding of the ocean itself. There is a lot of plastic that is in the ocean right now. Every time I go out on the ocean, I carry all kinds of plastic, balloons, like birthday balloons and everything. So the ocean is really not really well understood. The provider that it is, there's still a lot of garbage that goes into it, and I wouldn't treat it that way. It's very, very, very difficult and sad.
Yes, definitely. It's devastating to see it. Professor, what will be the solution? And I know that we cannot point to one solution, but what will be part of the solution to protect the ocean biodiversity?
You know, it's so difficult to answer that question. I'm going to be honest. It's very difficult. But I think, you know, what we need to think of is at the individual level, we can make a huge difference. And there are, you know, little things that we can do that can make a huge impact, positive impact on the ocean. I'm still baffled today that here in South Florida, we find so much trash and people are careless, absolutely careless. They leave, you know, their trash on the beach. And earlier today, I was following, you know, a truck and it was releasing plastic. I was like so nervous about it. It made me so nervous and angry. And, you know, so it's difficult. Every single person can make a difference. We need, of course, support, you know, political support to, you know, help making a difference. But honestly, I would really focus on, you know, individual impacts. We can all have an impact, taking care of, you know, what we leave behind us. And just realize that this planet, I mean, we're just here for a little while and we need to leave it, you know, in a better state than, you know, when we arrive. So it's, I'm sorry, I can't provide you one, you know, short answer. We'll have to spend a few hours together and talk about that. But, you know, it makes sense that these little things matter. So, yeah.
And I think that you said it so well, Professor. I mean, we just borrow this planet for the piece of time that we're going to be here. And if you think about it, in the great scheme of things, it's very, very small. And we're borrowing the planet from the next generations that are coming after us, for our children and our grandchildren. So the least that we could do is leave it a bit better, or if not the same as we found it. So
today I feel that we're consuming it. We're really consuming it like massively. And this is not going to last long. And if people care about their children, they're, you know, definitely going to try to make a positive impact and make a difference. I'm worried for the future.
for sure, I bet. Well, I think you're doing an amazing job in bringing up consciousness about the importance of taking care of our planet from your field, from the science field, and that is very, very powerful. So I thank you for that. And I wanna thank you both for your time, for your expertise. Luis, gracias por esa experiencia. Thank you so much. It was just truly amazing for me to be able to experience that and to be so close with these amazing animals. So so thank you, Luis. Gracias y thank you joining with us.
My pleasure.
So important that we recognize that the ocean is a living organism that provides critical resources for all of us. So today, we want to invite you to commit to our oceans, to take an oath and make a commitment to protect it. The solutions are on the table, and we need your support to ensure we protect and preserve our ocean, the great provider. We believe we can make it together. So we want to invite you to go to www.oceanthegreatprovider.org and join us. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Tomorrow, we will see you again at the same time with another great story of the ocean, the great provider. Please join us.